VibeCheck. Welcome back to another episode on 90.1 FM. Today, I'm your host, Lisa, and we got a very special episode today. And we have two very special guests. But before we announce the speakers, we're just going to talk about Kosovo for a bit, because most of you probably don't know where that is. Kosovo is a country in southern Europe, in the Balkans region. We speak Albanian, which is the same as Albania, but we're actually two different countries. And Kosovo is an independent country since 2008, and it's pretty wild because we were all able to see our country becoming independent, which is pretty cool. And even though it's a tiny country, it has produced some of the biggest pop stars now, such as Dua Lipa, Rita Ora, Eray Strefe, Action Bronson, and yeah. So today we have two of the upcoming artists from Kosovo. We have Luisa Bosniaku, Luisa with a $sign,
Hi.
and hello, and Nita from SYTÖ Band.
Hi.
Welcome. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
So, all right, we're just gonna start with an intro with one of your songs from SYTÖ Band, and we'll go with Crystal Floor. All right, so that was Crystal Floor by SYTÖ Band, and we're here with the lead singer of SYTÖ. Do you just want to talk a bit about what's the inspiration behind it? What does it mean for you?
Right. So, obviously, if you take a look at the lyrics, it's like juxtaposed against this really like funky, like fun beat. But what I wanted to kind of do with the lyrics was, kind of give this hedonistic, flavored approach of tackling some issues that we have in Kosovo. You know, the lines go, oh my God, how do I not remember my own song lyrics? Hold on. Completely spaced out right now. The state's on fire, but I'm having fun. There's no tomorrow, our clothes are borrowed. We're bound to this crystal floor. We owe the banks, everything's at stake, waiting for change forever. But then you'll have that's the chorus, but then you'll have in the verses, I'm talking about like, looking like silk, I feel right, and then white wine kissed my liver, now I feel your love. So I'm talking about, like getting ready to go out, feeling myself, whatever.
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to, create like a commentary on the fact that maybe economically, politically, whatever, in Kosovo, things are a little bit difficult, maybe a little bit heavy, and we are a country that's, I think, has the youngest population in Europe. I think the median age is like the youngest or something like that. But yeah, so we do have a lot of young people in Kosovo, and maybe people struggle with like unemployment and stuff like that. And I kind of just wanted to talk about that hedonism in the midst of kind of a weird or maybe just like a depressive situation, but we make the best of it.
Yeah, for sure. And I never realized the lyrics were so they all make sense because it sounds like such an upbeat song, but it's like one of those dance crying songs. So I love it. Speaking of the Kosovo, the youth and all of that, do you think there's enough opportunities for the youth, like young artists and stuff in Kosovo?
Right now, I think I don't know what it is about the music scene in Kosovo. Sometimes it's like it's blossoming like a lot. Sometimes there's a lot of artists that are active at the moment, and kind of collaborating with each other and stuff like that. And then sometimes there's just like a complete drought in music. But I think that what I have seen is that maybe the scene is kind of shifting. I think that we're kind of a little bit more focused on the commercial scene and maybe even like the electronic scene, you know, with like there's been a rise in DJs and like participation in DJing and maybe even producing in Pristina at least. But I don't know. I feel like like my music, for example, it's not that it's so avant-garde or anything like that. I mean, I think that, you know, our music is it's kind of like a genre that's pretty popular around the world. But here it seems to be a little bit like, oh, like you guys are different. So I think that we've had a lot of opportunities, but we've really had to, you know, work hard for it, and kind of really put ourselves out there and like make space for ourselves. But I feel like when you are an artist, you don't necessarily have to be a businessman. Like, I know I'm not. But maybe in that sense, I could see that if you have the talent and, you know, you have the drive to make music and perform music, but you might not necessarily be so great at, like, I don't know, making connections and like putting your name out there or marketing yourself, maybe I think in that sense you might have a little bit more of an issue with having opportunities to, you know, kind of like grow bigger and perform different places.
Yeah, for sure, especially now, because it's like 50% your music and then 50% is just like PR and like making connections and stuff, so that's definitely important. So how do you think the public took this like the different, you know, you have a different vibe from like maybe the rest of the bands? Did it come with positive comments, or how did they react to that?
You know what? I actually had, thankfully, a really, really good time and really positive feedback. And that's like thankfully for me, because I don't really have thick skin, to be honest. Like I will cry if somebody says something mean. So yeah, I mean, we've had some pretty positive feedback. I guess the negative feedback that we have gotten was more silent, but you could kind of see it through actions of people maybe not really knowing how to vibe, as you know, we're on the VibeCheck show. But they didn't, maybe people don't really know how to vibe to our music as much. It's not like techno where you kind of just like get into the rhythm of it and like, you know, you have like these repetitive dance moves, but maybe it's not in English. I mean, it's not in Albanian either. So I guess the lyrics also are not as sing-alongable for the general public. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's been generally positive, but I think the issue is kind of maybe we haven't really, I don't know, become household names or anything yet, or we don't stick maybe as much as, you know, like the commercial artists on the scene. But yeah, overall it's pretty positive.
Yeah, and the band has only been a band for about 2 years, am I right? Yeah, so yeah, it's just the beginning, and I think you're doing pretty amazing so far, so I'm sure there's only good things to come in the future. So let's go and listen to Luisa's Gemstones. All right, so that was Gemstones by Luisa, which is actually here with us today, and we're gonna talk to her more about what this song means for her. What was the inspiration for that?
Gemstones is like a more self-reflection piece, maybe. I wrote it during quarantine, and I wanted to release a very positive song and people can dance to and vibe to, and you know, I tried making it a bit commercial so like more people could listen to it and you know, grow a bigger audience maybe. And yeah, I portray myself as a fairy in the song, and yeah, I'm talking about the changes I'm going through in life, and yeah, that's basically it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you're You're pretty young. I mean, we're the same age, but I can still say we're both pretty young. Have you had any difficulties because you're starting so early? Like maybe people haven't maybe taken you so seriously because she's just 16.
I'm 16 and both of my parents are musicians, so they taught me everything about music my whole life. So, I'm ready and I'm educated in a way. And but people like, it's very surprising because people seem like to it's not about not taking me seriously. It's like they're surprised that I'm 16 and they don't think that a 16-year-old could do so much. I produce, I mix and master, I write and I sing and I do this and I do that. And, it's very surprising for some people. And it kind of bothers me a little because like, you can do that. And I'm like, yes, sir. But it's a bit tough, being 16 and people taking you seriously, but I try as hard as I can to achieve what I want to do, achieve my goals.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely. And you're working on an EP right now. Is there anything that you can tell us about it?
There are more than 5 songs recorded, so maybe it's gonna be bigger than an EP. Maybe it's gonna be an album. I don't really know. But it's very different for sure. It's something I've never done before, and I experimented a lot with sounds, and it's for all audiences. The project is titled Limelight, which is being the center of attention, and it also means I'm inspired by the 80s ballroom culture and the 90s club culture. So Limelight used to be a club in New York City where everyone felt free to express themselves. Like the attendees were like Jean-Michel Basquiat and Madonna and Andy Warhol, people like that, very diverse people and very versatile atmosphere going on. So I took inspiration from there too, and that's why I called it Limelight. So
yeah. Nice. So it's gonna be like a mix of different genres?
Yes, a lot.
All right, perfect. We're looking forward to that. And you're also from Manhattan, New York, right?
I was born in Long Island. Then I moved to Queens, and then I'm not really from Manhattan, but I get inspired by Manhattan because I visited a lot. But I was actually I lived in Queens, so you can call me a Queens girl.
Yeah. Do you see yourself maybe moving there in the future?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go to college there and maybe study sound engineering or music producing or something like that. And I totally see myself living there, and hopefully I'll be there in the future and make a name for myself there, become international, hopefully.
For sure. So speaking of moving to places, Kosovo is a very small, very small country, and it has a pretty small music scene as well, which has its positives and its negatives, because I guess it's pretty easy to maybe stand out, but it's kind of hard to make it big internationally unless you move.
Yes.
So do both of you think that there's like a chance to make it big even if you're just living in Kosovo?
Yeah, I think if you have a platform, maybe using it correctly and taking your name out there and submitting to magazines, for example, like I did, gets your name like kind of out there, so
For me personally, I was born and raised in the United States, and I moved to Kosovo 3 years ago, and actually that's when I started my music career. I personally believe that I've had a lot more success in Kosovo for these past 2 years than if I had started maybe in New York. I got to perform a bunch of different festivals. I got to perform in Germany, which I think would have been very difficult if I had started from New York or New Jersey or whatever. I don't think that I would have been able to, perform internationally, like in Germany, or like Pop Kultur Festival, or like Potsdam Festival. And I was supposed to have a European tour this year as well, performing at Dawn Festival in Salzburg, and like just like these other different places. So I definitely think that you can make a name for yourself from Kosovo. I think that in a way we even have an advantage, because I think that like our hometown is really easy to kind of, not really easy, but because of our culture, and like the way that we really want to like support one another and like see one another shine, and like we get so hyped when we see Dua Lipa or like Rita Ora or whatever, like it's really not easy, but people are more willing to kind of support you, and you have like this whole like base, fan base, like from your hometown and like your home country, and like once you make a name for yourself just a little bit outside of Kosovo, like, which for me, I mean, that happened within like these 2 years of me forever putting out like any song or any performance or whatever. I'm not saying that like I've done so much, but I just felt like I got so much love and support just for like a small accomplishment. And just imagine what would happen if like, you did something a little bit bigger or whatever. I mean, Kosovo always has your back. I think Albanians always have your back, and yeah, we have an advantage, I think, because of that.
Yeah, I agree, definitely. Yeah, so are there any artists from Kosovo, I mean, besides Dua Lipa and Rita Ora, maybe that you really look up to and idolize?
I really like Njomza. She's a very, very interesting artist, and I love her style. And she's such a nice person too. And I look up to her. She's very giving, and she's very talented. So I think she has a bright future, and I hope she will, influence a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. I think she'll be really successful too. What about you, Neet?
I mean, I think not necessarily that I idolize anybody, but I really, really love artists that have come out of Pristina. In fact, the music scene in Pristina is what kind of inspired me to have a band, because I remember coming to Kosovo every summer, and I was this 13, 14-year-old girl going to live shows which never happened, like for me in the United States. Like I lived in the suburbs, and I just felt like all my friends would go to camp, and then I would come to Kosovo, and I felt like I was living out like this 90s fantasy of like rock and roll, and like hanging out with like people who were really dedicated to their music and performing live and stuff like that. So I get a lot of inspiration from that, and if it weren't for Pristina's music scene, Kosovo's music scene, and like our rock influence, and like the prevalence of bands in Kosovo, then SYTÖ would not be.
Yeah, I think it's a really, really unique scene. Comparing it to Canada as well, like I haven't seen anything like that anywhere basically, because like if there's a show, most people will know of it, and it's gonna be like most likely a full show, or people are gonna want to come and support the local artists, which doesn't really happen in Canada, because they don't have that wish to see, because for us it's like we would love to see Albanians thrive in the music industry, so we do all we can to support each other. So I think it's really, really unique to have that. Have either of you noticed like any difference between like your fan base? Like, do you think it's more female, male, or like youth dominated, or maybe like older people listening?
I think like both young and adults listen to my music. I think it's for everyone, and I haven't noticed any changes. It's still a little fan base, but I think it's gonna get bigger after I release my project. And uh, I think like my fan base is more youth dominated than adult dominated. But I don't know. It's they're maybe yeah. It's more youth dominated. I got more a bigger fan base. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's talk about live shows. So we can talk about any fun experiences, any like maybe even embarrassing moments or best experiences that you've had with live shows.
Oh God. Well, first of all, I just wanted to say that with live shows, among everything else that I hate the coronavirus for, one thing that like it's really personal with the coronavirus is because I was so looking forward to performing and going on tour this summer, but obviously it did not happen because of the pandemic. But I'm also very thankful that I didn't lose anybody, or I don't know anybody that got sick seriously or whatever. But with performing, I've definitely had to learn about how to perform along the way. I had never performed before SYTÖ, and one funny story that actually just came to mind was I remember we opened up Sunny Hill the first year, and it was like, I don't even know, it was like really early, and not a lot of people had come, and obviously like nobody knew who we were, and we were just so excited, and like I remember I was like, okay, because I remember watching people perform like live online and stuff like that, like big artists, and then I would see them like like throw something off stage like to like a fan or something like that, and I thought it would be like dope of me to throw a water bottle and be like, is anybody thirsty? And like raise their hand, and I hit them in the head.
No.
Oh
my.
Yeah. So I don't know why I thought that was a good idea. I thought that there's like, I thought I had that superstar swag that I could do something like that, but no, I'm not gonna do something like that again.
Hey, at least you offered them water.
Yeah, because I thought I was being like, that's what it entails with like being an artist. Like you gotta show love to your fans and stuff like that. But I ended up like knocking on the head. So whoever that was, I'm so sorry. I am a better performer now.
Nice. Luisa, I think you had a performance on VFiles recently. Yeah, I actually watched that one. That was pretty great. Do you want to talk a bit about that? Like, how did that come about?
Like maybe a few days ago. Like it didn't happen in a week. It happened in like 4 days or something. I posted Gemstones in blue on VFiles, and I submitted to the past the aux sessions, and I was like, maybe I will get rejected, but maybe I will not. And like I didn't expect to be chosen to like perform on Pass the Aux, And then when I saw like VFiles texting me on Instagram, I was like, is this real? And like I showed it to my mom. I was like, what is this? Like, is it a joke or something? And she was like, no, they're legit like text DMing you. Like I'm like, what the heck? And yeah, I saw the DM, and I was like, okay, I'll do it. And they're like, dress your best, perform your best. You're gonna be on VFiles, get jiggy with it, but, and and it was pretty fun. I really liked it. And yeah, it got
Nice.
me a little bit of a American fan base maybe, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
It helped me a lot to grow the fan base and get my song heard on other parts of the world. So yeah, it was
Yeah,
pretty nice.
for sure. Yeah, that's really, really sick. Um, yeah, what has changed for you guys from the pandemic? I mean, obviously live shows aren't a thing anymore, sadly, but have you gotten more of a chance maybe to work on new songs, or did it become harder because maybe you don't have access to the studios, or what's a day in your life now during this pandemic?
Um, I guess like I had more time to kind of write and like record demos and stuff like that. We record at home.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they are just demos, but then when you actually want to go to the studio, that's a different story. But you know what though, this pandemic didn't really give me the motivation that much to work. I thought that I would, like in the first few months. I was like, yes, like I'm gonna write a whole album, but
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't. I had no inspiration. I actually had to go out with a friend one day and like kind of just have like a conversation with someone that wasn't my boyfriend who I live with, and he's also in the band. Then I had to have a conversation with like a friend and talk about different things just for some lyrics to kind of start coming out. We did a
Yeah.
lot of online shows, which you know what, I am not a fan of, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that it would be interesting at first, but it's not my favorite thing to do. I really miss performing in front of people and like feeling that human energy. But one thing is for sure, that I try to extract lessons from everything that happens to me. And one thing that I really appreciate is that I've learned to perform and give my all and give a show even when I'm not performing in front of everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Or sorry, anybody. Because I think I have struggled with that, with like not giving the energy that I imagined giving, because maybe there weren't so many people at my show or whatever, and like I'd just be like, damn, like, oh, am I allowed to say damn?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And then I'd be like, oh, like I feed off of other people's energies, and like maybe I didn't give my best performance because there weren't enough people vibing and stuff like that. But it shouldn't matter. It needs to come
Mm-hmm.
out from within, and I definitely learned that through this pandemic, which was, I guess, a positive thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because it's like the artist is like, oh, there's not enough energy from the crowd, but then the crowd actually gets its energy from you, so it's like a whole
Definitely,
circle.
definitely.
Yeah. How about you, Lisa?
Um, to be honest, like it's the opposite for me. It has really inspired me to write and sit down and do my work and produce. And I'm more focused now on producing and learning new instruments. I This quarantine I had like three music theory 3 times a week, two
Mm-hmm.
hours 3 times a week, which was pretty much, but it has
Yeah.
helped me a lot. And it has motivated me for like making new chord progressions and spicing my drum patches a little bit. And yeah, for it has really helped me for like producing and also for writing, because like I like being alone. I don't want to sound antisocial but
Yeah.
like being alone like makes me think a lot of things and makes me like put my mind into new things and learn new stuff. And I like looking at a lot of like documentaries and learn about people's lives. And yeah, that has helped me a lot about learning new cultures and writing stuff about those cultures. And yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty much it.
For sure. I'm glad it's been like that. Um, yeah, what's something that you would like to see differently in the music scene in Kosovo? Maybe let's say like 5 years from now? What do you hope to see?
Fortunately, a lot of young creatives are now making a name for themselves in Kosovo, which is very, very nice. And everyone is like changing maybe Kosovo people with Kosovar's mentality, you know, because like people aren't really used to people so young making things that are so interesting. And you know, the youth in Kosovo is very dominant, and you know we have a lot of young people in Kosovo that can do many things, and you know it's time for that to change. I think the young people in Kosovo need to be heard more than you know the adult maybe, because like they have fresh ideas and they have creative, you know, they make creative movements. And yeah, and maybe in 5 years we'll become like the next big thing in Kosovo. Like the youth needs to be more dominant in this country. And yeah,
absolutely,
that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Yeah, any input from you, Nita? Or
I definitely agree with what Luisa said, but also I think that Kosovo and the Kosovar music scene is in desperate need of variety. When something pops up, like for example, at one point actually, when I became inspired like by music in Kosovo, the alternative scene and like rock and stuff like that was really in, and then like everybody had a band, or at least it seemed like everybody had a band, and then we kind of like transitioned into like trap, like rap, hip hop, and then everybody kind of wanted to do that. And then now I think we're at this point where like everybody wants to be a DJ. And I just feel like it's great. I think that we need everything, but like I don't think that you should leave your passions and let's say indie or like alternative rock to become like a DJ, just because that's what the promoters and like event planners are like, you know, asking for. I feel like in order to have like a very healthy culture and like the music scene to like really develop and just be great is from these different angles of music kind of bouncing energy off of one another to, you know, constantly create new stuff. But when you have just like one concentration in one genre or just one style, your things are going to fall down fast. I think there's not going to be much development.
Yeah, for sure. Like I guess this is where the true supporters come in, because yeah, even though it's not a trend to have like a rock band anymore for some reason, yeah, there still will be like real fans who will support you even though that's not the trend. Yeah, so I guess it's pretty good to maintain what you really, really want to do rather than just hop on trends.
Because it's like I'm not always in the mood to like go listen to techno. You know what I mean? I want to go. I want to hear a live band sometimes. Sometimes I want to. I don't know. Yeah, I want to go to a rap show sometimes or something like that. But when there's just this concentration of just like one genre.
Yeah, it's the other thing that I love about Kosovo is like it's the music industry. I think is pretty female dominant as well. Like maybe not as much with producers and stuff, which I love seeing people like Luisa working on music production as well, not just like singing and stuff. Because yeah, some of the most influential people from Kosovo are actually females. Like yeah, like Dafina Zacire maybe. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you know what? Females in Kosovo, I think they stick to one genre, which is like dance hall mixed with a little bit of, I don't know, it's something that, you know, it ticks me off a little because it's the same every time. You know, I need to see change. Like
folk as well, like a little bit dance hall, a little bit like Talava in a way.
Talava.
Yes. Popolore.
Yeah, but listen, again, I think that's dope, but what we need is variety for sure. For sure.
Exactly.
Variety.
Yeah.
It's the same every time. We need change, people.
We do. All right, so I think we're at the end of the show. So yeah, is there anything that you'd like to say before we end this? Maybe like some tips to new artists like that are just starting out? Yeah.
Do you want to go first, Luis?
Okay. I think you need to pick up a new hobby. It's because you're staying at home, you need to do at least something, It's not about, texting on the phone all day and looking at movies and stuff like that. You need to pick up a hobby, maybe, learn something new and be a better person, maybe, create a new mindset for the year. So yeah, maybe that's it.
Yeah, anything you want to say, Nita?
What I wanted to say is tips for new artists. Do not be afraid to put yourself out there. Just pull the trigger and do it. Because if you overthink like, oh, is this good enough to put out? You may as well never putting anything out at all, because you're always going to be waiting for that right moment. I feel like doesn't exist. So yeah, definitely put yourself out there. And just because something is DIY doesn't mean it doesn't have to be professional. So
True.
I don't want that to ever be an excuse for people to be like, oh, like, yeah, I mean, whatever, something that might not be up to par, and people just being like, oh yeah, but I didn't have the right equipment, or I didn't do this, or I didn't have that. I think that you can definitely make something sound really good, or you can make things look cool, and you could just do anything really, really cool from home with your own tools. But yeah, it can be professional as well. So yeah, don't ever let that get in the way of you putting your stuff out there, and don't let your lack of equipment or blah 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 or whatever get in the way of you putting yourself out there. Just always put yourself out there.
Yeah. Yeah, really, really good tips. Yeah, thank you so much, Luisa and Nita. It's been an honor. It's been a pleasure to have you here. And
Thanks so much for having us.
Yeah, I'm just shouting out your socials because into your stuff. So go check SYTE SYTE _ band, I think, on your Instagram.
It might be ___. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Okay,
one of those. And then Luisa with a $sign. It's still that, yes, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Luisa.
Perfect. Yeah, stay tuned for her next EP and check out SYTE's albums. They're all amazing, I promise. And yeah, stay vibing. See you next time.